In this session, we will be talking about how to tell a story in Tableau, right? So for that, I'm going to look at, uh, let's say, region-wise analysis of that same superstore, right? Initially, I would like to dig down step by step with some kind of text and messages, and probably show the kind of key performance, how it has performed with respect to the target over a period, such kind of stuff. So let me assume for that kind of an analysis, I have a key performance indicator which has been agreed upon in terms of the profitability ratio. And so right now, let's say it's around 15%. But I should have that kind of a flexibility to change the key performance ratio to something, and all my calculations need to be dynamic. Now this kind of a dashboard where I am setting some key performance indicator, probably if not 15%, if I set it to 25%, based on that my different regions should show in which periods I have exceeded the performance, in which period the performance was bad. I could have it region wise kind of an analysis, and I can get the quick evaluation of the performance of each of the region, right? So that is the kind of interactivity I want to give through my dashboard. And once the interactivity comes, I can very well make it to dig or drill down to the details, so that a much more interesting stories are going to crop, right? So basically, depending on my objective, right, I have to reiterate the stuff. Depending on my objective, depending on the audience, I can create, and depending on the mode of delivery, where are they going to view? Is it on laptop or mobiles or what kind? I can have either a fixed size dashboard or a dynamic size dashboard. In a fixed size, I can specify the look and feel, whereas dynamic actually adjusts itself so that no open spaces or white spaces are typically there. So let's get ahead. So let's say initially I want to create, right, some kind of a parameter, right? So we'll first connect to our data, the same Excel file, the superstore. I've connected to the data. So here my first objective is straightforward. I have a KPI in place, right? So I have a KPI. So anything below it is underperformance, anything above it is overperformance. So what I can typically put is, I'll create a parameter. Right, I could create a parameter here. So I'm right clicking it, say create parameter, upload type of parameter called KPI, let's say cutoff. So the KPI cutoff, the current value, let me give it as 15% or probably 0.15. And the display format, I'm keeping it as automatic. Everything is fine. Allowable values, almost any value. So I have a parameter, KPI parameter, which is called as KPI cutoff. Where is it? It is coming out here, right? Then I'll also create a profit ratio. I mean, this KPI parameter of 15% is associated with a profit ratio, which I don't have. So I want to make it an aggregate value, because depending on what dimension I am selecting, I want the computation to happen. So I'll create one new calculated field called the profit percentage or something, right? I am creating it as a profit percentage, where I'm using a simple formula like I'm doing the summation of the profit divided by the sum of the sales. So depending on what parameter I am selecting, oh, what is this? Sum of profit, not product ID, sorry. Sum of profit divided by sum of sales. And because I have put sum of, I am doing an aggregation. So depending on what dimension I am choosing, it gets aggregated accordingly. So I am applying it. I got a new calculated field called profit percentage. So it is simply dividing the total profit by the total sales, whichever is the dimension on which I am putting the view. Then I would also say good or bad performance. So anything, any profit percentage above, I call it as good performance. Above the KPI, I call it good performance. Otherwise, I call it as poor performance. So even that kind of a field also I have to create. So I call good versus bad. So that's the name of the field I am giving. So here also I'll simply say if whatever is my right, if whatever is the field that I'm looking at, the profit percentage, if this is greater than or equal to whatever is that parameter KPI cutoff, then I'm saying it as good. Else I'm simply saying as bad, and I'm ending the if statement. Alright, so I'm saying okay, apply it, and I've got a new field called good versus bad. Right, now I'm taking a new sheet here. So what I'm simply looking at is I'm taking all the regions, okay, east, south, central. I'm having the regions east, central, etc. And KPI, whatever is the profit percentage, not the KPI, profit percentage that each one has actually selected, I can bring it here. Or, okay, I'm not interested in this kind of a graph, right? Let's say I want to bring this, okay, let me bring it back. Here, instead of automatic, let me select a shape. So by default, let's say circles are being selected. What I can very well do is the shapes I can edit for plus and minus, or probably a tick and a cross kind of stuff. I can take a lot of shapes, right? I can talk about up and down kind of stuff. Right, I have something like this kind of stuff, KPIs, increase, decrease kind of stuff. So I can very well choose increase and decrease, right? So I say apply this, okay. Let's look at. So all of them by default, right, I can apply something like this, or basically the best thing is now I have, based on the shape that I have selected, I can put this KPI or probably the profit percentage that I had, right, or probably the good versus bad. I'll put it onto the color, right, good versus bad. I'll put it onto the color. Along with that good versus bad, I'll put it onto the shape as well. How come all of them are coming out with the same color? Right, looks like all four of them are bad. So I have to really see what has gone wrong. The profit percentage, let's try to find out for each one. Yes, it's looking like around 8 to 15% only. Right? All of them have generated around 8 to 15% only. That's the reason all of them are showing in bad. So let me put the cutoff at somewhere around 12%. Let me edit this parameter. Right, let me edit this particular parameter. Instead of 0.15, let me make it 0.12. So then I had a few good as well as a few bad. Now this is where I want to edit the stuff. Right now let me not have these. So I'm taking out the aggregate from here. So the shapes wise, the good is identified with a square and bad is identified with a rectangle. The other way is I can edit this stuff. So I'm editing the shape. So for the bad, I can very well go with a red, or I can very well go with this kind of an element. And for a good, I can go with this kind of an element, and I say apply. So it is showing that the central is with a cross mark, east is with a tick, and something like this. So I have one such kind of a shape. So I'm using the shapes to do the display of the stuff. Then the other thing I would also like to look at is create a kind of a sparkline chart quarter wise. Right. So I'll take another sheet. Right. I'll take another sheet where I would probably this sheet, let me call it as shapes, right, and this sheet let me call it as sparklines. Right, I'm creating a sparkline kind of a chart. This time I'm dragging the region here. The date is what I'm dragging here. I want to look at over a period. Right, I want to look at over a period. So instead of year, I'm looking at quarter and a year. So region wise, I'm looking at the quarter and the year, wherein I'm looking at the aggregate profit percentage for each of the periods. So I'm dragging the profit percentage each of the periods. I'm getting this kind of profit percentage for each of the period. So central, in some cases it is doing good, some cases it has fallen bad, etc. So it's a kind of a time series that I have got for this profit percentage for each quarter for each of the regions, central, east, south and west. And I can very well copy the same profit, right, by on the same axis. I'll go for a dual axis here. If I'm dragging it here, right, I can very well go for the second one as a dual axis. Now I got a dual axis for the profit, right, and I would be plotting the line as well as circles to typically here, right, and so on the second one, instead of the line automatic, I'll go with a circle. So I'm getting a difference. So I'm getting a difference across. So the first one is showing a line, the second one is showing a kind of a circle, right? And the circle marks, I will try to do a color. I'll differentiate this circle marks with a color going for the good versus the bad. So I'll drag this good versus bad here. Wow, now it is showing the blue color is showing the bad, orange color is showing the good for me. So the good versus the bad I am able to distinguish based on the circle. And whatever is the profit, I mean the axis, here I can very well hide off. Right, the axis here I can very well, I can stop showing the header. If required, even this side also I can stop showing the header. So if I take it out, so probably central, so this is what is coming out. So the axis associated with this profit percentage, I have hidden it. Now it is showing blues and oranges. Blue showing not meeting the target, whereas orange is showing meeting the target, right? And before I have done this hiding, let me take it back. Before I have done this hiding, I can really right click it and here I can look at independent axis range for each row and column. I'll select independent axis range for each row and column so that I get the overall shape of each sparkline very easily observed. So I apply it like this, right? No, this is making things slightly look odd, right? I don't need to really look at this aspect because it is cluttering the stuff altogether. And this side, if I am trying out independent axis range, no, we are having a different picture altogether. So let me not do this independent axis range. Okay, so now let me do the removal, show the header. I'm taking out the show header on both the sides. Now the column dividers I can very well remove, right? All these column dividers I can very well remove. I go into the format borders and I can very well set the option to none, especially for the columns. I can have, okay, they are already none. Column divider, right now it is showing something. I can look at the, for the pane as well as the stuff, I can very well remove the column dividers. Now the column dividers are gone. These are my column dividers. I have removed them. And okay, I can use the label. This is the label. Okay, I want to show, what is that? I want to show marks to the label. So I want to show the number at the year end or at the end of the period. Correct. So probably I'll say show the marks, but not all of them. Probably the line end. So I'll show the marks only towards the end of the line, just for simplicity. Then if required, I can create a new dashboard now. Now there are two views. One is the shapes, the other one is the sparklines. Using the tool, let's say I want to create a dashboard. I create it with my own custom size, right? I can say 300 pixels by 400 pixels, some such kind of shape. Let's say this is the dashboard that I really want to create. And I can really arrange all these stuff. The shapes, yes, I click on it. Okay, the good and the bad. If required, I can make them as floating. So initially, let me try looking at making this good and bad floating, where I drag them to the selected location. Right, let's see, otherwise just increase the width. Let's say 600 by 800 kind of a width. Oh, this is too high. So 600 to 600 kind of a width. Alright, so I'm putting the good and the bad. Let me put it somewhere here. Okay, so this is what is showing the good versus the bad. And now I can even pull the shapes. I am pulling the shapes as well. Right, let's see why I need to pull the shape. Again, I can make this shape also look more floating. Right, this whole thing I can make it look floating. I can try placing it somewhere here. Okay, let's make the necessary modification wherever required. So right now let the shapes be like this. Right, depending on our requirement, we'll typically take it further. Now let's say I want to create some kind of a story. So I'm telling a story using the interactive. When I'm saying a story, I'm doing some kind of interactive snapshots, right? So each of the snapshot of the dashboards and the views. I'm taking different dashboards and different views to tell a story. Each snapshot becomes a point in a story. Now, how I make a kind of a good narration of the story, good presentation of it is purely up to me. Now, let's say I want to do the presentation here, where I'm more interested, let's say, in looking at some kind of issues that were there, let's say with, yeah, probably the South. I want to do some kind of a dig down of the analysis of the South, because many a times they have performed well, or probably let me take Central. So the Central, many a times they did not perform well, only once or twice they have really performed well. So I want to highlight some specific issues with the Central region. So I want to transform this entire simple scorecard that I have created here, right? I want to transform it into a story. So the way we can look at. So what I'll do is I'll create one more sheet, right? I'll create a new sheet called, let's say, geography. I'll create a new sheet called geography, where I'm double clicking on the state field. So automatically this kind has got created. Right, let me just check. Okay, I have created the geography here. And what I can do is I can make, based on the good versus bad, I will put it in the color. Okay, it's not showing, so which means actually I have to edit the latitude and the longitude. It's not able to recognize. the latitude and the wrong longitude. No. Okay, let me quickly go with this is a filtered, this is a filled map. Edit locations. Okay, right now it is unrecognizing these locations, Alabama and all that stuff, because by default it is pointing to country or region UK. So let me change it. The country or region, let me change it to United States. Then the latitude and the longitudes are updated accordingly. Yes, now it is able to identify them, right? So now things have come out. So I can use a filled map talking about the good versus the bad. So the ones which are more in orange color, that they are being recognized as good, and the other states which are in different color are being recognized as not that performing kind of states, right? So based on whether they have done good or bad, we have pulled based on the aggregate good versus bad kind of stuff. States wise, we have tried identifying whether they are good or bad. And if I really want to go ahead showing the full and not showing the unlimited unwanted areas, I go into the map options and I can say wash out of the map to 100%. So all other portion of the map is completely washed out for me. Only the required area will be shown to me. All other part is typically washed out. So the background clutter I am able to remove. Now what I can do is, okay, this was the dashboard that I had. I'll duplicate this dashboard altogether. Right, this time I will also pull in, this time, okay, I had this dashboard, let me adjust it. This is a location specific, and actually I need these things to be overlapping here. Yeah, yeah, what I really wanted was I select it in such a way that these things should overlap here, and I do the required editing. That, let me just work out that editing part. So I don't require, or let's say I'm taking this as it is, the centrals and all that stuff. So we need actually, I'm hiding the title. So the shape I say from 0. So this is how it is coming. Okay, it is, so this border I don't require. This is what is doing the clutter for me. This entire border I really don't require. So what I can very well do as a part of the formatting of this is I go here, I go into format, right, borders. Here I can very well set, okay, the paint to none. I can set the headers to none. Everything I can set, the column divider I can set to none, right? All these things I can very well set to none for columns. Now the same thing, if required, I can even do for rows as well. The row divider also I'll set to none. Now what is happening? This good versus bad, I can simply hide it as well. Or let me make it floating. So it's just a matter of how we play around with this stuff. So let me take it wherever it is. And now, okay, now just make sure that these two are something like this. Okay. And this sheet, let me drag it a little bit here. Right, I can do the adjustments accordingly. That is what probably you have to play around when you are trying to, right, let me close this so that I can do the adjustment for this part. So the spark lines, see when I am looking at this, that is overlapping because it is floating more, and this one also I can make it floating, and what I can really do is now I can do the adjustment. Both of them I can adjust. So here let's say I don't need the headings. So what I can very well do here, I go to this and say the headings are not required. So I go here, format, and okay, go into this format, fonts and all that stuff. I can very well remove the headings as well here, or probably even if I want to keep them, I want to keep in such a way that they overlap. No, it's not worth going ahead with that. So which means it's always better to, I can remove the title. No, not the title. Let me just play around with this a little bit. Okay, now it is showing exactly next to each of these regions. So this part I can still say remove. Okay, that part I have simply removed from the dashboard, and here I have to do a small adjustment. So what I can do here itself, probably let me hide the heading so that once I get here I won't get the heading anymore. So, and I don't need this spark line as a heading as well. So I come here and I say in this worksheet, okay, it's not showing the title at all. So here it is showing the title. So I can very well say I can remove the title here. So after I have removed it, I am doing some kind of an adjustment. Now that it is float, I am doing some kind of an adjustment that one it is brought next to the other. Right, and probably a little bit of adjustment here and here. Slight adjustment of the stuff. I am able to drag it so that I can create it to my requirement. And similarly, this one I am adjusting a little bit. Right. Okay, so this one is also getting adjusted a little bit so that both are being visible. Okay, so at the bottom, if I am planning to keep it, yes, this is good, this is bad. And now I could see a little bit below here. Yeah. Now it is showing that this is good, this is bad, and for each of the months, this is being displayed. Now I can really play around. If required, I'll drag my text out here saying it is regional analysis. Some such kind of headings I can very well put, get my headings accordingly. Where did I put my heading? So let me drag the text again somewhere here. Regional analysis. I'm saying okay. So what I can do is I can make it much smaller. This is where I'm getting my regional analysis displayed. So I'm getting region. So central not performing well, east is doing well, south, west, some such kind of stuff coming out as a part of the graph. Now I can even increase the width of my dashboard, let's say to 800. And what I can very well do is all these things I can make them slightly narrower. This part also I can pull it next to it, closer to it, right? And probably if required I can reduce the width of it. And this space I want to use it for my geography. So the geography I click, I get somewhere here, right? Even this if required I can make it floating so that I get it in the place where I really want. So I have made it floating, try to utilize this particular space. I'm getting something like this. Okay, the geography has come something like this and I really don't want the title, so I have removed it off. Now, right now you could see whatever I am selecting, only that part is typically coming up. Alright, so depending on what we are selecting, only that particular portion is coming out. Keep it aside. The goods, bads, fine. Now what we are simply saying is, now I'll try to get the region. Right, now that I have got something like this, I will put a region here, whichever in this sheet. What I'll simply do is I'll put a filter. I'll use a quick filter for the region. Okay, I got a quick filter like this. Now again I can make it probably I don't want it something like this. I can make it as a single value drop down, and based on this I can have all. Okay, I'll make it single value drop down and make it floating. It's already floating, so which means I can very well carry it wherever I want. Okay, I'll place it somewhere here. Right, if I'm selecting central, I'll get only for central. If I'm getting all, I'm getting for all. All right, so let me take it off. And the same way I can even put my KPI parameter also. So what I can very well do is I get my parameter. I say show parameter control, which again if I'm coming out here, so I can very well get that parameter as well. No, I had to create it first initially and then get it. So probably I can very well get my parameter control also here. Let's say in this geography, I say show parameter control, and once I got into this particular dashboard, so let me take out this dashboard. Now when I double click on this dashboard, I get my parameter control also accordingly. Make this variable floating, get it wherever required. So this is the geography related graph that we have got. I don't require the title. So I got, so we can very well arrange the stuff as per our look and feel. Right now, using this entire, I can create my stories. Now I want to make it step by step kind of a process. So this is the dashboard. At least the good thing is if I change it, let's say to 0.1. Now I am seeing that all of them are getting updated. Right, the region. Now if you say I have made it to 0.15. Now all of them are performing bad. Right. Whereas if you have made it 0.05, then all of them are performing good. Right, here we have made it, okay, probably here we have made good means blue and bad means orange. So here also it would have been better if we have adjusted to good means blue. So probably what I can do is I can adjust the coloring here. Right, I can very well adjust the coloring where I say bad means blue, good means orange. So if I adjust it, what is that coming out across? Okay, if it is blue, it is doing good. Okay, I want blue to be good. Right, what I really want as a part of the color is I want bad means orange, good means blue. I apply it accordingly. So I'm getting blue is good and orange is bad. So I can decide which colors I really want for what purpose. So now I have to create a story now. So I'm creating a new story like this. For each part I can add one caption. So I'm creating a new story. So I can drag all. So this is the first caption. And what I can very well do is I can get all that. So now I can see which ones I want to pull. So what I'll do is the dashboard 2 is what I'll pull into this particular story. And I'm adding a caption here, probably saying the south. I'll talk about the title for the story. I can still go with south analysis. Right, I'll say south analysis, and that is what I'm going ahead with. So I've added the dashboard that we have created, and now here I could see, okay, overall the south is good. Right, if let me put around 0.1 or something. Okay, overall I can say overall the south is good. or let's take central. Instead of south, we'll do a central analysis. Right, okay, the central is not performing well. Right, and now I could very well see that in lot of areas the central is not performing well. Now what I can very well do, this is the story that I have created. Now I can very well create, right, now what I can very well do is I can copy this particular story by doing a duplication. Right, in the next story I am getting the same, but here I am creating, in the second one I am creating a new. Right, in the second one I am creating a new point. Right, here also I am adding the same dashboard, but this time I am creating a new story point. The first one I said central is not performing well, whereas here I could clearly see, however, in a few quarters it has done decently well. Right, I could clearly say that in few quarters it has done decently well, and I could give purely associated with the central here, and I could simply do the, so I could purely associate it to the central. Right, even this I should have linked to only those. So when I go to this shapes, even in the shapes, just like the way in the spark lines I have made region as a filter, in the shapes also it's better that I make region as a filter. Right, and probably the better one would have been when I come to this region, even, okay, in my dashboard itself, in this region I could have said apply it not just to this worksheet, I could have said you apply it even to this shapes as well. Then it would have improvised. Instead of this, if I had selected the central, only the central would have been shown here. So I could very well do that. So once I come here, only the central is being shown with a kind of a tick mark. Right, it is decently well across all these periods. So what we are simply saying is I can communicate this stuff central wise, and if required probably I can just do the marking, annotate the mark for this particular period. So I can really play around with all these kinds of stuff. So this is the kind of a story that I have created. Step 1, step 2, I can really plan out my story. So where specific in each story, I mean whatever was there in story 1 is completely different, and whatever is there in story 2 is completely different. We are digging it deeper and deeper to give a better picture. Now when I'm saying this, I'm going into story 1, whereas I'm going here, I'm going into the story 2. So that's how I keep adding up the stuff, and I can very well get into the presentation of the same as well. Right? So and in the story 1 probably I don't need this. In story 1 I am keeping only this. In So when I come to this story 1, this is the sheet that is being seen. In story 2, I'm exploring it only to show the central kind of a region. So like this, I can really, even if I say I want to put this even to geography as well, right? So I come to this dashboard, the region, I say even apply it, not just to this, even to geography also. Now what happens when I do that, I come here, only the central geography is what is being displayed. Now rather than that, I make it east, I get only the east and the story. But of course here, my east story has to be created. So I have to be very clear. The story is more about making a presentation and changing the things accordingly, right? So I have to really plan out my stories at the beginning itself. But when it is a dashboard, I can very well go ahead in terms of making it more dynamic to the typical person who is viewing this dashboard, right? So that's how we can typically create a story once the dashboards are fully in place. All right. So thanks a lot for listening to this session. Now you know how, now you are comfortable in terms of creating dashboards, creating stories out of the dashboards. So that makes that there you can use your creativity to create wonderful dashboards and stories and create excellent presentations regarding the presentation and visualization of the data. So thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.